But this one I thought was interesting. This is VOV in the news. So this is the Savvy owned, or the PIF owned. It's a Saudi Arabian based company that builds land centers in Saudi Arabia. And it says Newcastle United, which I had never heard of before, is excited to announce an innovative strategic collaboration. This is obviously on their own website, with VOV, a leading online and offline gaming company who will work with the club to grow a global digital and esports presence. So VOV, a subsidiary of Savvy Games Group, they're going to be collaborating. It says working with VOV will allow us to engage with Newcastle United fans via the popularity of esports and gaming in Saudi Arabia. It says our collaboration will provide an exciting platform for our fans to engage with. VOV will also lend their knowledge and experience to the club in Saudi, where we continue to expand the club's fan base as one of the country's most supported Premier League football clubs. So I guess Newcastle United, I didn't know this, is a soccer team, right? And they have esports ambition of some kind. Maybe I'm the wrong audience for this, but what surprised me, and the reason I wanted to bring it up, is this feels like a very small name, given the scope of the $38 billion announcement. It's felt like, Microsoft partners with like Joe's Pizza Little League team. And I'm exaggerating to make a point, right? But it felt lopsided. Maybe I'm just not enough of a soccer fan. I'm curious to get your thoughts, guys. It's a bit of a buzzword soup announcement. So
Chris Acoin's coming in with the hot take information.
12th most recognized soccer team in the world. All right.
Yeah, they're not small.
I mean, but when you're spending $38 billion,
here's a
you
question.
go for number 12?
Who owns them? Is there like some Saudi ownership like that? Because doesn't Saudi own a soccer team? Are they trying to sign Cristiano Ronaldo, or someone owns? Like
those are local Saudi teams. That's like a Saudi, like a Saudi league team, essentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's trying to sign Ronaldo.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, it's interesting that this soccer team, I actually think it's more interesting in the reverse. I think it's interesting because the way the article read was that the soccer team is looking to tap into the Saudi population, and they're doing that using gaming, which is interesting. That's the kind of, I mean, this is something I think we know, but it's maybe not that well known outside people who are really following the region, really following gaming and esports. The fact that like esports and gaming is the way that they chose to go attract these new fans, I think is a pretty good indicator or signal, at least.
But, yeah, I mean, Jeff, I'll just push back a little bit. Like, first of all, FIFA is really big in Saudi Arabia, so the soccer connection does make sense. It's probably, if not the biggest game, it's number 2. I think it's number 1, but I don't want to say that without the data in front of me. But I'm pretty sure it's number 1. But the reality here is like there have been missteps in the US around traditional sports teams trying to use esports to access younger audiences, right? Like this has not always really worked that well. I'm curious if you think that it maybe goes down that path.
I that's my concern too. We're excited about the region. You see them spending a lot and innovating in new ways, but this seems to me like a mistake that they should have been cautioned against based off of other failures. I mean, you can point to partnerships like Esports Entertainment Group that had tons of partnerships with pro sports teams. And what did those look like on paper versus what did those look like when they were activated? Or were they just PR move? You know what I mean? Like you see this happening for other companies in similar partnerships that maybe they didn't activate the way they thought they would. But either way, it's a tough thing, I think, to transcend traditional sports audiences with esports audiences that have seemed very much in their own camps. Soccer, I think, might be a difference maker there. Like you said, Paul, and perhaps also that region, why this club versus others, to Chris's point, and they are a well-known club, they are large, but why wasn't this maybe a more local club where VOV and the Saudis are going after a traditional sports partnership, maybe picking names or teams that their region already is familiar with and favors? Maybe they do, and that's why this was chosen. But either way, it's it's a very risky move when you've seen so many failures of traditional sports and esports. Jeff, it looks like
I think I think where some of these sports teams have gone wrong in the past is if you're viewing it as a way to get new fans for your sports team, I don't think that's going to work, because it's like if people want to just play Rocket League, people who had no interest in being fans of Newcastle United just wanted to play Rocket League or FIFA or whatever, they could do that without. Why do they have to engage with Newcastle United or the Jets or whoever? Pick a traditional sports team. It's irrelevant. They could play that their passion without doing it for that team. Where I think the engagement could work is these activations could work is when you look at it as like an engagement tool, where you have someone that's already a fan of that traditional sports team and also a fan or an enthusiast of this esport. You can then marry those two together, where it's like, hey, you love playing Madden. Hey, you love the Jets. Want to play Madden to win Jets tickets. Okay, cool. Now you're getting some engagement. You throw a sponsor against it. Maybe you make a little bit of money. I don't think it's a gangbusters business idea, but if you're in the business of doing fan engagement, that's an activation that can work. But you're not going to convince someone who just loves playing FIFA or FIFA is maybe a bad example. You're not going to convince some 12-year-old kid who loves playing Call of Duty that all of a sudden they should be a Minnesota Vikings fan because you hosted one tournament. Like, that just doesn't make sense.
It feels a little bit like 2019 esports playbook, right? Like, I feel like the industry has moved on and realized this is not as obvious as it seems. On paper, it seems obvious until you've sort of been down that path or at least seen it, and you realize this more often than not, it has failed, right? And the crossover is not as strong. The benefits to both sides not as strong. And that you would think, again, with the billions they're spending, to focus on gaming and esports standing on its own rather than turning to traditional sports as a crutch feels like a misstep to me.
Something we would have advised against on this show. And to Jeff's point, though, I do see the marketing value there, but then I think that's the kind of thing where you announce the event as opposed to a full-fledged partnership, right? Something a lot cheaper as well as more limited in time, and then you evaluate the success of that activation within those parameters in that audience.